Hey guys, Matt here. I'm in Koh Chang, an island on the eastern side of Thailand in the Gulf of Thailand. I'm standing outside a abandoned cruise ship hotel, which is very interesting. But by the time I got here, I got engulfed in rain and now I'm just sort of stuck. I wanted to take this video as an opportunity to rebuke the concerns and comments that I've received on the heels of the video I recorded in Cambodia as I left Phenom Phen, and I got sort of almost mugged and almost hunted by a couple of kids on a motorbike. The comments there go from genuine concern to ignorant outrage that I'm traveling in the first place. Really interesting. I appreciate the concern. Those of you that left concerned comments, I do appreciate that, and I'm not trying to diminish anybody that had concern for me in that moment. It was scary. I didn't know what was going to happen, so there was uncertainty. I had kind of gotten myself in a situation I did not know if I was going to get out of 100% safely. But I got out of it, and it's not a dark stain on Cambodia. It could have happened anywhere. People get mugged everywhere. There's evil people everywhere. But the good far, far outweighs the bad, and that is a global thing. I can't stand when people generalize and start saying that Cambodia as a whole is a shithole, or the people in Southeast Asia are bad, or Matt, you shouldn't be traveling, Matt, you shouldn't be riding your bike, you shouldn't do this tour, you shouldn't be riding this early, Matt. It's very dangerous. You should leave during the day. If I left during the day, in the heat of the day, I'd be riding in the temperatures around 100 degrees or 40 degrees, depending on Celsius or Fahrenheit. In my opinion, that would be more dangerous than the worry I'd have about finding a couple of hooligans out at 2 or 3 in the morning. For those of you that are saying that my form of travel is dangerous, do you realize I've been on the road for 25,000 kilometers through countries that vary from the sophistication of Japan to the third world-ish of Laos? The only danger I've ever had, was that moment in Phenom Phen. And let's analyze that, because I've also had a lot of people ask me what I could have done to prevent that. What are some things I can recommend to other travelers who could learn from my experience and not get themselves in my situation? I think it was a grouping of different things. I had been leaving at like around 3 or 4 in the morning because it's dark, traffic is light, if existent at all, and it's just a much cooler way to put down the kilometers before the sun comes out and starts baking you, and the traffic comes out and starts dusting the roads. This method of transportation, method of touring was working out really well for me, and still is working out well. I have not changed my method of touring. So I was leaving early from a city called Phenom Phen. Phenom Phen is the capital of Cambodia. The richest people and probably the poorest people live grouped together in this city. And when you mix rich and poor together, you get crime, you know, and you get trouble and the potential for these things. And I had left at a time when people were probably just getting done with their nighttime jobs, their bar jobs. Maybe they were drunk, maybe they were finished partying, who knows. But I left around a time that was probably maybe not the smartest time to leave in Phenom Phen. I'm really putting asterisks here, because to change the whole method of my travel based on one experience in one city that I could have probably structured it differently is crazy. And you have to look at each experience on its own. I was leaving Phenom Phen at a very early hours, like about 3:30 in the morning. I was using Google as my navigational aid, and it took me down some side streets in order to take me to the next main road. And so I took this side street, and just before I took the side street, I think I was tagged by this motorbike with these two kids. And they followed me and ended up, you know, almost grabbing my phone. And then I flicked them off, which was a bad thing on I shouldn't have provoked them. Whether that provocation made them angry enough to want to pursue me more, I don't know. But that was probably something I would recommend. You gotta just, if you get away, just slough it off. Don't antagonize. Don't ever antagonize anybody in a situation where violence could occur. It's always better to take the high road, and as long as you have your health and most of your belongings, consider yourself lucky. But I provoked him. He ended up coming around. I had found myself in back alleys. I'd say that was probably something I should have avoided. There were probably longer ways to go from one major road to another major road and get me out of the city, but I chose to take these back roads. They had never caused me problems in the past. Will I avoid back roads completely? Absolutely not. I could probably do a back road, which I had done in the time from that experience to now, in the early hours of the morning in cities that aren't like Phenom Phen. It was simply the idea that I was in Phenom Phen, a huge city, that this happened. I probably would recommend that if you're in a huge city like that, with a potential for crime, that you would avoid side streets if possible. The roads on those side streets were bad as well, and that created a problem with me just trying to make up distance and trying to get away from them. If I had flat roads, I think I would have been a bit more agile, and maybe I could have just ran off away from them and I would have been okay, but the roads were bad. So there's another one. If the roads are bad, consider that as a weakness on your side as a cyclist. And you don't want to put yourself in any weak situations where there's potential for you to get, you know, in some sort of a crime situation. I ended up finding a major road shortly thereafter and getting out of town. The next day I left in the early morning without any trouble. The people, the demographic had changed. The demographic inside of a major city in a third world country is different than the demographic outside of that city. And I count myself lucky to have escaped that, but not paranoid enough to give up my tour or change the way that I travel. Just make sure to learn from the experience and make sure that it doesn't happen again, or hope that I can avoid it in the future. Some people out there have recommended I take a weapon or take some mace or something. That's not a bad idea. Different countries have different laws with regards to that. One of you guys said take a club, you know, what are those called? The stick, you know, the steel stick that you can smack on somebody, and something heavy. I do not like carrying extra heavy stuff. I have this selfie stick that I could use that's actually connected to the camera that has a metal end. I always thought about using that. But in the heat of the moment, sometimes it's tough to reach that sort of a thing. And sometimes if you're nervous and shaking and in a paranoid state, oftentimes your own defense can turn on yourself and you end up spraying yourself, or, you know, putting yourself in a situation. Or I think the best thing to do is to try to get away as quick as possible, as efficiently as possible. Maintain your wits about you. And, you know, if you have to jettison your belongings are less important than yourself. To also talk about Cambodia and talk about how I had some people saying some nasty things about Cambodia as a whole, and I don't want to take away from their experiences. Maybe they have had some really shitty experiences in Cambodia. I can empathize, but I can also say that since that moment and just before that moment, I had met some amazing people, and they don't take away from the experience in Cambodia. You can't look at a situation by one or two things that happen. You got to look at it as a whole. You got to also say, did I put myself in that situation? Did I open myself up to being in a situation where I might open myself up to an opportunity that something would happen that I would say, Cambodia, I don't like this place. And maybe I did. So do I fault Cambodia for what happened outside of Phenom Phen? No. I fault poverty. I fault thugs seeing an opportunity. I fault youth. Those kids were young, late teens, early 20s. They lived a life that I cannot understand. They probably have had hardships I can't understand, and they probably developed into individuals that I can't understand. And so that's it, you know. Do I think Cambodia is a great country? I think Cambodia as a whole was probably not my favorite country to cycle through. It was very hot. There was a lot of pollution on the sides of the roads. There was a lot of things that I think that country is working towards cleaning up, you know. We're all moving at our own pace from our own beginning to our own future. And Cambodia, I could see a lot of changes happening. And hopefully the more changes are going to happen in the future. I didn't see probably a small percentage of what makes Cambodia great. And how am I going to judge a country if I have not fully embraced them? And so I have to understand that as well. From the experiences that I had there, the experiences that I personally put myself in and got myself through, I was not as impressed in Cambodia as I was of Vietnam or other countries. So I'm not going to preconceive Cambodia as any more than a gathering of experiences that I perceived that on a whole, I'd have to say were pretty good. The food was good, the people were really nice on the whole. And honestly, the idea of me getting mugged, I gotta take that out of the equation and throw it away. Because like I said, that could have happened anywhere. So if that would have happened in Vietnam, would I have a lesser opinion of Vietnam? If that would have happened in Japan, would I have a lesser opinion of Japan? I mean, it could have happened anywhere. And for me to prejudge a country based on an experience that could have happened anywhere, I think that would be pretty ignorant of me. That would be pretty thoughtless of me. So, will I take back roads in big cities at the early morning? I don't think so. Will I leave so early at large cities in third world countries? Probably not. And if I do, I will stick to major roads and get out of the city as quick as possible. Will I bring a weapon? I don't think so. But I will try and ride smarter. The problem with a lot of the world right now is that people, they create, is that people solidify ideas without allowing themselves to be flexible enough to understand the whole picture. And you know, I am, sometimes I fall into that. Sometimes I think, you know, this place sucks, or you know, these people, and actually I don't do that too much. I try not to preconceive much. And experiences that happen to me might not happen to other people, you know. I can meet 99 travelers out of 100 that have never been mugged in Cambodia. And they will see my story as an oddball, because I think it is an oddball. I also think that there's plenty of people that have worse experiences in Cambodia, in Vietnam, and they can say, you know, that these countries are horrible because of that reason. I don't know the crime rate in Cambodia. I'm guessing it's probably a little bit higher than other places. And I remember, and I know I threw out Japan. Japan has a very, very low crime rate. Did I feel less safe in Cambodia? Probably. Am I going to say that the whole country's a pile of shit? No. Am I going to chastise myself a little bit for not taking in that factoid when I was riding out of Phenom Phen early that morning? Yeah. Sometimes you gotta fault yourself. I'm not too proud to do that. Anyways, it's still raining. When it lets up, I'm gonna start heading back. I kind of wanted to fly the drone a little bit more over this interesting hotel, abandoned hotel. I actually want to go in it, but they'll fine you. and I don't want to get fined. But it is an interesting hotel. Somebody should come here. Some YouTuber should come here, actually, with a little bit more cojones than me, and explore the inner sanctum of this place. And please, if you want to make an educated opinion about a place, you need to go to it, you need to explore it, you need to weigh out all the good and the bad, and then you need to also analyze the bad experiences and then say, was that attributed to something that I did? Was that maybe avoidable based on the climate in the country or based on what you knew about the country? And if it is, you might have to fault yourself before faulting the country. So take it easy, guys. Jayoe. I think the next episode of this, I'll be cycling out of Koh Chang towards Pattaya. And I know some friends in Pattaya, so hey, you know what? That's an interesting thing. My preconceived notion of Pattaya was that it's a sex industry filled sort of place that I didn't necessarily want to visit again. I got a call from a friend that has family there, that lives there, that is very interested to show me the real perspective of Pattaya outside of all the stuff that we've all heard of in the news and that I've seen firsthand. So there is a perfect example of me leaving my opinions open and pliable enough that I'm willing to change my mind and attitude towards a place that I've already kind of developed a preconceived notion. And I would much rather change my mind about this place than stick with a negative opinion. Take it easy, guys. Bye-bye.